MagMongoSlade.
Hey yo, it's time to talk about SmackDown for March the 10th, 2023. So let's do so. First, news and notes. Well, one note really, which is that WWE is looking to get into gambling. They want to get into legalized gambling. Now, it's a little weird because we know that wrestling is predetermined. To have betting on a predetermined sport business seems a little over the top. If you ask me, nobody asked, but if I had to throw my opinion out there, I think it's a little bit over the top. That being said, though, there's more to bet on than wins and losses. You know, you could definitely bet on different things in a match. You know, whether somebody will win with their finisher or somebody will win with another move. I guess you could bet on something like that. I guess you could bet on, who's going to enter first or that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not a DraftKings, sports book kind of guy. So I'm not entirely sure but I know people who are into that stuff. And they pay attention to not just points per game and who wins, who loses, but, how many yards a guy gets. How many catches does a guy have? The kind of things that can't necessarily be predetermined in a sport, but are important to the game. It may be important to an individual player. And I guess in wrestling you could do something similar, but considering they could theoretically decide that somebody's going to win some money today because we're going to do 14 suicide dives, and you got over under 10 suicide dives in this show. I guess you could just decide to give somebody some money. To me, I don't know if it makes sense. I know they say they do this outside of the United States where they already do betting. And that's why they're kind of trying to expand into the United States. But to me, I don't understand betting enough. So maybe I'm sitting here saying to myself, this doesn't make sense to me because I don't understand gambling. Like, I don't understand the world of sports books and all. I don't even understand the desire to do that stuff. I bet on the Super Bowl one time. I won and didn't get paid. So it's just because it was mostly a friendly bet for like $20. So it wasn't like that big of a deal. You buy me lunch and we call it even. But if I don't know if that's something you guys are interested in, let me know. What do you guys think about WWE getting into gambling? It doesn't seem like something that would be smart for me. But then again, I don't know that much about gambling. All right, let's talk about SmackDown. The Bloodline is in the building. Is in your city. Jay is there. He wants to see Roman. Paul Heyman gave him a big old hug, which didn't change Jay's facial expression at all. He seemed disgusted by Paul Heyman, actually. Then he said, Paul Heyman told him that both he and the tribal chief are very proud of Jay and his decision to come home. And then Jay says anything he's got to say, he's going to say it in the ring. So we're going to get Jay's explanation. Paul Heyman, backstage later, says that Cody is too much. He's getting involved in the Bloodline business, and Bloodline business is family. That he knows that they've been talking about a specific member of Cody's family. But this is different. This is Cody injecting himself into Bloodline business. Paul then broke down that whenever a new opponent emerges, him and Roman, they sit down and they strategize on how to deal with said opponent. Do we handle it like gangsters? Steal chairs, jumping people from behind? Or do we battle them with the truth? We tell them about themselves and mentally break them. And they said that Roman made the decision to attack Cody with the truth. But said that in the ring, Cody is a stylistic problem for Roman Reigns. And I was like, that's an interesting breakdown of the situation. he's a stylistic problem. I don't understand how he's a stylistic problem, but it made Cody sound good. Made Cody sound great. So later, the main event, I guess you could say, Jimmy and Jay are in the ring. And Jay is going to explain why he did it. And Jay explained it in pretty much obvious terms. You know, he did it because he had to. Because his brother was in trouble. He says, my twin, he's my brother. Not Sami Zayn. He says, you upset about what happened, blame Sami Zayn. It's Sami Zayn's fault. All he had to do was fall in line. All he had to do was do what he was told. But he's selfish. But of course he doesn't understand. He's not blood. He never will be. But I did find it interesting that he said he didn't want to. He said he did it because he had to. Not because he wanted to. And Jimmy was still standing there. And Jimmy's facial expression didn't really change. You would think he should have sold that. Like, you didn't want to help? Like, what? But it makes sense. Jay has watched Jimmy get into these fights with these guys before. He doesn't really want anything to do with it. So Jimmy says now that they dealt with Sami Zayn, now it's time to deal with Cody. He doesn't know what Cody's problem is, why Cody decides to get involved in bloodline business. Cody came out there, said, if you're going to talk about me, then might as well talk to me. And that you guys answer to Roman Reigns. I don't. Jimmy threatened to put him on the shelf. If he came one step closer, that means that Cody took his shirt off and ran to the ring. At that point, Sami Zayn slipped in and attacked Jimmy from behind. So Cody is fighting Jay. Jimmy is fighting Sami Zayn. And they're both going in different directions. And they're all into the crowd and being thrown over the announce desk. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad little brawl. It ended up leading to, of course, the separation. And they fought off the air, essentially. So, it was pretty obvious what was going to occur when it comes to Jay Uso. And it speaks for itself. The storyline has been about family anyway, and blood, and whose blood, and, you know, what is family is kind of the angle here. That Sami Zayn and Jay Uso had a bond. They were family, but they're not blood. And blood has to come first. And that's what the bloodline is all about. Is that blood has to come first. Another interesting note is that the Usos are now the first WWE tag team to ever cross 600 days as champions, which essentially goes back to the Paul Heyman promo where he says that, you know, the bloodline, all of them are great. He says he is the GOAT. Roman Reigns is the GOAT. The Usos are the GOAT. And it's hard to say, like, the Usos have been a tag team for 10 years in WWE. They think they debuted in like 2011 or something like that. Maybe even before then. I think everybody saw the potential in those guys. But I don't think anybody saw that they had this in them. You know. But it typically, as it works in WWE, if you stay in the system long enough, this kind of stuff comes out of you. You know, if he'd have fought the Usos 5 or 6 years ago, they probably wouldn't even be this good now. But they've been in the system for so long and they know how it works. And, you know, the coaching and everything. It's just like this kind of stuff is really coming out. And it took forever for people to actually start giving the Usos any kind of credit for being a great tag team. It's really unfortunate. But that's kind of how it works in WWE. You have to do something for 10 years in WWE to get the credit that somebody who does something for 2 or 3 years gets on the independents. I mean, look at Aussie Open, for instance. Aussie Open, one of the best tag teams in the world or whatever. It's like nobody knows who they are. But, you know, routinely, this small fraction of wrestling fans will be like, Aussie Open is a great tag team. They're much better than the Usos. You're like, oh, okay, sure. You know, if you say so, brother. But kudos to the Usos for, 600 days as tag team champions. That's pretty cool. Now, we know that's mostly for storyline reasons, but it's still a damn good accomplishment. So, I like it. Jay Uso, not really all that much of a surprise of why he joined. Cody, it just needs to put some heat on Cody. That's the only reason I think he's even involved in this stuff. If Sami Zayn's been doing this by himself, But now Cody going to have his back. And then at some point, Cody's going to have to be replaced by Kevin Owens. And they don't have a lot of time to do that. So I guess Cody's going to have to be Peacemaker. He's going to have to be the guy who brings Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn together. And Cody being sort of the Captain America of this version of this anti-Bloodline Avengers team. It's gonna be pretty funny. I feel like we building towards the Survivor Series actually more than WrestleMania. But Cody being the guy who forms the team to take down the Bloodline should be interesting. I don't hate that idea. It actually puts a lot of emphasis on Cody and his abilities more so than we thought. So I appreciate the storyline. Thank you very much. Okay, the first match on the show, number one contenders match: Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, LA Knight, Karrion Kross, and Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods is subbing in for Kofi Kingston, who is injured apparently. So Imperium was watching this, and we ended up getting a screwy finish, and I was unhappy with the finish. Drew McIntyre pinned LA Knight, Sheamus pinned Xavier Woods. Both had their own referee. So the 3 count was simultaneous, and the referees, of course, bickered about who won. Then Drew McIntyre and Sheamus bickered about who won. The crowd is chanting triple threat. The match ends in a draw. I was furious. Look, I knew something was going to happen that was going to be weird because this match was on first. Also, I know a lot of people was like, Mongo acted, he really went off on this ladder match idea last week. Yeah, I did, because I did not see the placard that was saying this match is going to be a fatal 4-way. But I did say, thankfully, that I hope they find some way to break that up, because I did not like the ladder match idea. I do not like the triple threat match idea. I said it, and I've been consistent with this. You want to present Gunther one-on-one with somebody. And that's seemingly what they're going to do. So now they finish with this goofy draw between Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Now, throughout the match, they did kind of avoid fighting each other. They got in each other's faces a couple of times, but there was not a lot of interaction or fighting between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. They're still kind of building the heat. Backstage, though, they're in each other's faces again. They're yelling. And the characters are pretty obvious here as you stand there and look at them. Sheamus is fiery. He's angry that Drew is still just won't get out of the way of his dream of being Intercontinental Champion. And Drew McIntyre is like, we're supposed to be family. We're supposed to be brothers. We're supposed to fight and go get beers afterwards. Like that's his mentality. Like this not supposed to be that big of a deal. It's not supposed to come between us. But we've seen throughout history Drew McIntyre as a character is very selfish. Like incredibly selfish. And always puts like sort of what he wants first. And he thinks that he can screw over Sheamus and still be friends with him. It's kind of like that, like a bros before hoes situation. Like, this is not that big of a deal. So what? I had sex with your wife. So what? We've been knowing each other for 15 years. You're going to let that come between us. It's like, what? So I guess it depends on what kind of person you are about what side of this fence you would be on. It's interesting. It's not, of course, not as severe as banging somebody's wife, but the general idea is the same. That you have a friend who wanted something. He wanted that. Sheamus wanted that rematch with Gunther. He really wanted that rematch, and Drew McIntyre knows that and decided to sort of inject himself in that situation, which could potentially steal that opportunity from his friend. And that is a selfish move, But at the same time, is it wrong to want things for yourself too? Is it wrong to expect more from your friends and say, look, we can get past this. We should be able to move on beyond this, right? At least that's what you would think. That's what you would think. All right, so Gunther is intimidating Adam Pearce by saying he is upset about Adam Pearce's inability to complete a simple task and that he is derelict in his duties. But I did like that he says English is not his first language, but he understands that he wanted a opponent, singular, not opponents, plural. Adam Pearce then set up the Sheamus Drew McIntyre one-on-one match next week. So we're going to get a definitive answer over who's going to be the number one contender next week. Is it going to be Drew McIntyre or Sheamus? And I think the sentimental favorite is Sheamus because of the matches that he's had with Gunther. But I think for a marketability standpoint, we're probably going to go with Drew McIntyre. I personally like Drew McIntyre as an opponent because I want Gunther to win. We could do the triple threat match at another pay-per-view, just not at WrestleMania as far as I'm concerned. I think Gunther needs to win whoever he's wrestling. I would prefer it to be Drew McIntyre. But what do you do with Sheamus on this show then? That's the question. Who knows? You can't put him in a tag team. You can't put him in a 6-man tag. They're not feuding with anybody. So what do you do if does Sheamus miss out on the card because of this situation? His one-itis for the Intercontinental title? Maybe he's one of those guys that don't make WrestleMania. Maybe he makes WrestleMania, but he's in a different way. He's in Drew McIntyre's corner. Maybe they do a storyline where Drew costs, Sheamus costs Drew McIntyre the title. Like he says, they shake hands at the end of the match on SmackDown next week. And then Sheamus like, let's go out for a beer, mate. And then, he thinks that they're buddies again. Only for Sheamus to bro kick him in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania and screw him out of the Intercontinental title. That's entirely possible. And I think that would be a move that I would actually support. Because that seems to be the direction that we're going in terms of Drew McIntyre and Sheamus in their relationship. If they fight, they're friends. They fight, they're friends. Fight, friends. And then they, it's like the WWE version of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Where they're going to fight one minute, they're friends the next. So, I don't know. But I like the idea of finally getting an answer to this question, But the storyline involves both guys now. And I think that both guys being so tied up kind of takes some of the heat off of Gunther, which is unfortunate. But I think they do take some of the heat off of him because a lot of the heat is going on either Sheamus or Drew McIntyre, depending on how you're looking at things. All right, so Rey Mysterio was announced as the 2023 Hall of Fame induction, the first of many, hopefully. The question, of course, comes out to who's going to induct him. I had 3 names written down. You have Chavo Guerrero, Vicky Guerrero, or Conan. The question about Conan, which I think most people says it's got to be Conan, right? And for me, the answer would be obviously Conan. The issue will, of course, be giving Conan a live microphone, Conan's ability to travel, that sort of thing. WWE seems to always want to push Rey Mysterio in the Guerrero camp. So my bet is that he may want Conan, but they're going to end up calling Chavo. So something tells me he's going to get inducted by Chavo Guerrero, and I'm just going to be sitting there like, what? But it should be Conan. Also, I did see on the internet that the Great Muta will also be in the Hall of Fame, and it was actually announced on PW Insider and some actually decently reputable dirt sheet that is going to be Great Muta is going to be one of those guys. It's very, very fitting if it was the Great Muta, considering he's been having a hell of a retirement year, and since Triple H went about letting Shinsuke Nakamura do that match over in Japan for Noah, I was very interested in that, and says that he respects Muta a lot. So I definitely can see that Triple H would put Muta in the Hall of Fame, and it's definitely not like somebody that nobody knows. It's definitely fitting. Rey Mysterio's Hall of Fame induction is well deserved, but it's also part of a storyline. So now he has a storyline Hall of Fame interaction. Dominic came out and interrupted what was supposed to be Rey Mysterio's big moment, well, one of his big moments. He called him. He said they're putting in a pathetic, washed-up old man in the Hall of Fame. It's like, bro, do you not know what a Hall of Fame is? 99% pathetic, washed-up old men. 1% pathetic, washed-up women. Okay. Then he talks about how he should be in the the Deadbeat Dad Hall of Fame, saying that this Hall of Fame career was built on missed birthdays and missed holidays, and that he's ashamed of being Rey's son. This led to Santos Escobar marching down to the ring, and there's supposed to be a 6-man tag anyway, so they decided they're going to do it right now because he's tired of this disrespect about Rey. And they had the match, and the match was very solid. Legado del Fantasma versus Judgment Day. Dominic ends up pinning, what's his name? Cruz del Toro. I was calling him Raul Mendoza. And at that point, Dominic wants to have a heart-to-heart. Wants to talk to Rey again. Rey gets in the ring. Legado del Fantasma are outside looking like absolute roadkill. The Judgment Day step out to let Dominic have his space. Dominic says again that he doesn't understand the Hall of Fame induction. And then says that he should have been Eddie's son, which Rey said, you don't mean that. He almost said that almost immediately, like, you don't mean that. And then Dominic just pushed him again, shoved him in the face. He really is trying to get the most, trying to get Rey to fight him. So then he threw a punch at Rey. Rey moved, and Dominic went spearing through the ropes. And it got a little bit of applause as, you know, finally Rey is not just going to stand there and let himself get hit. Dominic is yelling at Rey that he's going to fight him. And Rey's like, no, I'm not ever going to fight you. Never going to fight you ever. And that whole I should have been Eddie's son. That's brutal. That's brutal. Oh, that's brutal. That sucks. That sucks. Oh, that sucks. Oh, that sucks. Whew. We're getting closer though. Rey did not want to hit him because of that, that's a bit of a low blow. But I'm telling you, something's got to happen. Dominic has to cross that line where Rey is like, it needs to happen. I need to put the beats on my own son. It's got to happen. But we're not there quite yet. But this was a pretty bad dig. During the match, though, they was talking about Dominic having troubles as a teenager, and that, you know, Rey wanted to put him out a long time ago because he was a troublemaker as a teenager. Which I think should have been something that should have been injected into the storyline. And maybe that's why Dominic has these problems with Rey. Is that, you know, they have beef going back several years. I mean, they lived in the same house. It's an angle, much like, you know, the Bret and Owen angle where, you know, Owen's kind of like feeling in, like he's always in Bret's shadow, which is always the case because he's the little brother. In this situation, you could have Dominic has always been a troubled kid for whatever reason. Even though, you know, you would think he lived a pampered lifestyle, you know, he just has behavioral issues. And he's always had behavioral issues. But we were kind of introduced, I guess you could say, to Dominic as good kid in over his head with the wrestling business, and his dad is there, you know, helping him along. But I like the idea that maybe we should go back and look at some of the real story of Dominic and Rey, and some of the issues Dominic may have had as a teenager due to his dad not being there so much. You know, maybe a sit-down, heart-to-heart interview where Dominic can drop being ex-con Dom for him just for a few minutes and actually be Dominic, I guess Gutierrez, I guess that would be his last name, and actually explain some of the problems that he had, like in school or whatever. And then that would be a way of getting the family involved. Because I'm thinking the only way for Rey to actually want to fight Dominic is if he does something to the family. You know, to me, that's the only thing I can see. Because he said some of the most disrespectful stuff that you could possibly say. So we have to look at it beyond he can just say disrespectful things. He has to actually do something. You know, there has to be some active action, reaction. So, still waiting on that. A lot of people are pitching the idea that Rey Mysterio is going to retire after he has a match with Dominic. I can see that. That's what made the Hall of Fame induction kind of surprising, is because Rey is still active. And because he's still very active, not just near the end of his career or has announced that his career is over, but because he's still, as far as I know, a full-time wrestler, not even part-time, not even, semi-part-time or whatever. He's still active on the roster. But the idea that Rey's final match will be against Dominic is good. Like, it's great for Dominic. The issue I would come with, however, is I always pictured Rey's last match would be him losing his mask. Is that going to be, like, are we going to double it up in that way where Rey is going to wrestle Dominic, lose, and be unmasked? Because I would think that would be two different matches. That he would have the match with Dominic, probably lose, feel bad about even fighting his son, have Dominic's, instigate another fight in which Rey puts his mask on the line and then loses that one too. It's entirely possible. Or Rey could win the first match at WrestleMania and then lose to Dominic in a separate match down the line. But having it as a retirement match is fine, I guess. I just don't know. It just seems kind of abrupt for it to be a retirement match. It just feels abrupt for that. Especially since it's only like 2 or 3 weeks away. For it to be like a retirement matches. That seems kind of heavy. Especially for Dominic, who doesn't have the most solid, stable career right now. To have him be the guy who ends Rey Mysterio's career when he probably... It might be the only significant thing he does at this point. Dominic is really good at being a heel and his heel character and everything. But how far can he really go? Like, what's his ceiling? And are we saying that Dominic is going to be in this kind of position for the next decade? Next, he's 34 or something like that. Do you see Dominic Mysterio being world champion? Like, I can see him being like Intercontinental champion or something like that. Tag team champion, definitely. But as a single star, I don't know. Also, I want a feud between Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio. That's kind of what I want. And I think it would be a nice little twist because Legado del Fantasma, like I said, they look like roadkill. They keep coming out there standing up for Rey and getting their asses kicked. That's not good. You have to consider your own legacy at this point. Like you have to consider how you're embarrassing your own dad, that you keep fighting Dominic and can't beat him. So I would think that to put a nice bow on Rey Mysterio's career is that we let him go one more year, or at least get one more year. We get the match with Dominic at WrestleMania this year, maybe another match with Dominic, and then we do the end of his career run, where hopefully Santos Escobar will say, I'm sick of trying to help you in your career. You won't stand up for yourself. And then Legado del Fantasma kick his ass. And then that kind of brings Dominic back around. That we actually have the reunion in the career of Rey Mysterio, where Dominic is watching his dad just get his ass kicked by Legado del Fantasma for week after week. And he's like, me and my dad, we had our problems, but I can't let these guys go out there and beat him up. And then Dominic tries to help him. Like, I think that would probably be a better way to end Rey Mysterio's career, is to have Dominic helping him rather than have Dominic end it. Because having Dominic end his career puts Dominic in a really, really high place, very young in his career. And it's almost impossible for him to surpass that point. He'd be a guy who peaked in high school. He'd be like the Al Bundy of like WWE. Like, remember my third year in, I retired Rey Mysterio, and that was it. You know, much like Baron Corbin is right now. Like Corbin's had Kurt Angle's last match, but what else has he done? He ain't done nothing. He ain't done nothing. Oh, I guess he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I guess there's always that, and his extremely short run as United States champion. I guess there's that. You know, we could always hang our hats on that. Adam Pearce backstage with Charlotte. She's wearing something that includes gloves. I don't know what the hell. She looks like Princess Toadstool. I don't know why she's dressed like this. Anyway, she wants a match with anybody, kind of an open challenge idea. So it ends up being Shotsy, and I was like, that's cringe. Of all the people you got on the roster, why would you pick for Charlotte to wrestle another babyface? Whatever. Of course, Charlotte defeats Shotsy because Shotsy is barely on TV as it is and barely on the roster as it is. Rhea is out there watching. After the match, Rhea and Charlotte are face to face. After the match, Rhea gets on the microphone and says this is why she chose Charlotte, because of Charlotte's abilities and her talents. But says that when she looks into Charlotte's eyes, she doesn't just see fear and acceptance. She also sees in her insecurities, that Charlotte is insecure, and that she's going to take what Charlotte thinks is most important from her, which is the championship, which is okay. All right. Charlotte then says that Rhea Ripley has improved, and her improvement is something for her to be proud of, but she being Charlotte, improves every day because she takes this business seriously, and she will outwork anyone, male or female, and that Rhea Ripley can destroy anybody except her. So they didn't have no contact, but they said some stuff to each other, and then Rhea Ripley kindly turned around and walked away. This has become a sort of routine thing in the Triple H builds to WrestleMania, where guys basically talk to each other, and that's it. Like, the Bloodline the Usos are fighting people all the time, but everybody else is basically having conversations. Like, there's going to be another one. Omos and Brock Lesnar are going to talk Titan to Titan, face to face. Everybody's going to have face to face. It's like, okay. I can appreciate that to a degree, that you want to minimize the amount of contact between these two parties, but you might want to increase the intensity a little bit. Everybody comes across like they respect their opponent. You know, like, I have the utmost respect for you, which is fine, you know, with the exception of Dominic and Rey. There's no respect there. But what draws interest is intensity. You know, when people feel like these two characters are in for a collision and something, you know, is keeping them apart. Like, you can see the wick was lit, and every week is going down little by little by little until it finally explodes at WrestleMania, you know? But right now, everybody's in this real respectful place where nobody's really attacking anybody from behind. Nobody's hitting each other with chairs, which again is a benefit because you don't get bored of it, which was the problem I had with some of the event stuff over the last couple of years. Guys fight so much that you really don't want to see them have a match at their pay-per-view because they fought so much. They fought in tag matches. They fought in all kinds of other silly kinds of matches. But, you know, now we're kind of avoiding that, which is good. I just wish we need to kick up the intensity a little bit. Just kick it up a little bit. You know, somebody needs to actually try to get some heat. You know, Rhea Ripley needs to start going low on Charlotte. You know, attacking Charlotte personally, trying to tear her down. You know, make the fans get behind Charlotte, which I know is hard, but make the fans get behind Charlotte. Asuka and Bianca Belair needs something because they haven't really even had any interactions. I know that you probably think that Asuka can't talk, you know, because of the English, the language barrier or whatever. But you got to do something. Like, both matches can't be, I respect you, but I want to win. That's the storyline for both women's matches. that sucks, Brody. You're like, you can't, it's okay to do that once. If it was babyface versus babyface, we could do that. But, which I think is Asuka and Bianca, they're babyface versus babyface. I would prefer if you just turn Asuka heel. In this one, Rhea Ripley is a heel. She should probably bash Charlotte's head in at some point, right? You do have the women's tag team titles where there's a clear-cut heel and a clear-cut babyface. Damage Control are clearly the heels. My issue with Damage Control is that it sucks. That's kind of my issue with Damage Control, is that it's not good. But let's talk for a moment, because there's a lot of whispering about Trish Stratus turning on Becky Lynch and Lita. And, she's having a heel run and end up having matches with Becky Lynch, maybe at SummerSlam or Saudi or something like that. Where, I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of look forward to that, because to me, it seems like they want to reintegrate Lita and Trish into the wrestling era. And, even though they're a little bit older, and Lita looked really not good in their tag team match, I just kind of ignored it, because, she's basically semi-retired and wrestles in jeans. It is what it is. But to have these women that they have been pushing for 15 years or whatever as the standard bearers, and it's a great thing for the younger women to be able to have matches with these older ones who are still fit and can still go. So, having Bayley have her dream match against Lita and Trish, because she's on Twitter posting what she wrote in 2002 about Lita, and it was very sweet. It was like she had a little journal, and she basically wrote this a short article about Lita, and it was very sweet that, she's a super fan of Lita. But at the same time, I'm kind of looking like, it's weird. But it's a situation where they're trying to give people their heart's desire. Austin Theory, there's video of him talking about wrestling John Cena way back in 2018. So it's like he's really, really wanted this. And now Auntie Pam really, really wants a match with Lita, and she's going to get that. But it's not going to be a singles match. It's going to be a 6-woman tag. And you know what? I'm okay with it. The execution leaves a little bit to be desired. But having ultimately Bayley and Trish as a team is okay. I don't see what they have in common, but that's what the story is about. The story is about finding things that they might have in common or whatever. So what would bring Trish and Damage Control together? I don't know. Maybe Trish's on again, off again rivalry with Lita, and that would be the thing that would push them in separate camps. Okay. But I think that ultimately the goal is to get to Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch, which I think is where they're going. And that's probably, again, going to be Saudi or SummerSlam or something like that. And that's fine as far as I'm concerned. That's fine. But that's assuming, of course, the dirt sheets are right and Trish Stratus is going to turn heel. Right now, it doesn't make much sense. But maybe after a week or two, there's something in the story where it will make more sense. But right now, it sounds like some Vince Russo, let's turn for turn's sake kind of thing. At the same time, though, I do like the integration of more of the women. Of course, the question would be, you have Ronda Rousey, who's a huge name in the business right now. She's not well liked, but she means something. And the question is, she's probably going to be left off of WrestleMania too, because there's no match for her. The women's tag team titles are tied up in this 6-woman tag thing, and there's nothing else going on. Ronda is in no position to wrestle anybody for anything at this point. And she's not even in the middle of a feud, so she can feud with somebody else. So there's 3 women's matches at WrestleMania. 2 of them are title matches. One of them is a 6-woman tag. The question would be, is that going to be enough to make the female locker room happy? Because there's so many of them. that is like, well, what do? We clearly it's going to be a battle royal of some description, right? But it's who cares about that? Hopefully they rebrand that thing. It's not just women's WrestleMania battle royal, but it's actually a women's battle royal. Oh, the last thing when it comes to the women, and probably the thing I'm going to end on, is that Naomi actually took WWE out of her Twitter thing for good. She's now just Trinity Fatu or whatever. So I guess this is an indication that she's not coming back. At least not coming back anytime soon. She's kind of dropped the whole Naomi thing completely. And for me, it's a sad way to end her decade-long run in WWE. She was in WWE for a long time. And for her career to end the way that it did, I mean, she was in WWE before Sasha Banks was. I mean, again, Trinity was in WWE in 2007 or something like that. She spent time in the developmental system. She came through the system. She is one of the longest tenured women in WWE currently. Well, she was before she walked out. You would have think that things would have been better, at least for her. And you would think, the Sasha Banks situation would have been fixed due to Sasha Banks' star power, basically the stroke that she had gained over the years. But there's only so much of that stuff when you have terrible behavior, with Sasha continuously walking out and that sort of thing. And for Naomi, it's a terrible situation because, again, she had so much tenure in WWE and so much time. And the people did like her. She wasn't on the level of, Becky and Bayley and all of those young ladies, but she was well respected. At least in the ring, she could do some stuff, But now we're looking at it where she's basically a ghost. She, outside of a very, very, very dwindling subsection of the wrestling fan base, Naomi's name hasn't been whispered anywhere in terms of wrestling. Like, nobody knows if she plans to even continue wrestling. And she seems like one of those types of women that is WWE or bust, much like Nia Jax was. There's a lot of people who are like that in WWE. Like, once you've been there and you've done all that stuff, do you have any real desire to go backwards and go wrestle in AEW or anything like that? Like, I don't see Naomi popping up in GCW or anything like that. So, it's a WWE or bust situation. So if she's not coming back and then she's not going to go work anywhere else, she's going to essentially just fade into obscurity, much like, Alicia Fox or something like that, which sucks because she was more over than that. And she was more longer tenured than that. You would think some of these people who have short runs would flame out and then go do fitness videos or something like that. But that seems like that's probably what's going to be Naomi's thing. She doesn't need to work anyway. Her husband is probably about the main event WrestleMania. It's about to be a huge paycheck. So she don't need to work, but it's just for her individual legacy. It's a bit of an issue. All right. That's it from SmackDown. What did you guys think of the show? I think the Mysterio stuff was very good. The Bloodline stuff was kind of predictable, but also still good. The Intercontinental Championship, interesting situation. I'm glad that they was able to douse the flame that I had a little bit by just saying, we're not doing ladder match, we're not doing triple threat, we're doing singles match. But thank you, Triple H. Doing a good job for now. But add some goddamn heat to these women's matches because they just exist at this point. We need some intensity. Maybe somebody needs to either turn heel or, something needs to happen. We need to go low with some of our conversations, get into somebody's head, try to hurt somebody, something, even if you're just hurting their feelings, there needs to be more intensity to this. I just don't know how to do it while also maintaining that they don't make a lot of contact. Maybe Rhea Ripley needs to show up on Ric Flair's house and kick him in the chest or some shit like that. Or something. I don't know, man. I'm not sure. But there needs to be something where there's a huge hook for WrestleMania in terms of one of these other matches. Because right now they're basically letting the Bloodline sell night 1 and night 2. But that's never been Vince's way of doing things. You have to have multiple different hooks because there's going to be peaks and valleys in the show. So you need to have more than one hook. So something needs to happen, specifically in one of these women's matches, that makes their match something other than go to the bathroom. Because right now, what reason do you have to care about Asuka and Bianca Belair? Asuka won an Elimination Chamber match, but she hasn't really interacted with Bianca at all. What reason do you really have to care about Rhea Ripley and Charlotte? They both want to be the best. Like, okay, but that's every week, isn't it? That's Monday, that's Friday. Like, this is WrestleMania. This would be a bigger deal that you would think is a bigger deal. You know, we need to get Charlotte some sympathy. You know, we need to attack her from some kind of position. Like right now, we're trying to attack her competence. That, you know, that's something Charlotte's really proud of, is how good she is, and having Rhea Ripley prove that she's better or something like that, which is again fine, but you could do that on a regular B pay-per-view. WrestleMania needs to have like a bigger, grander hook, and we're not going there yet. And then there's a lot of other matches on the card that don't have big grand hooks. So it makes the women's thing stand out even more when most of the card doesn't have it. But let me know what you guys think of the WrestleMania card. The build has been pretty mid outside of the Bloodline. And it's getting really obvious now that they're trying to use the Bloodline to push the entire show. And that's what they've been doing the last couple of months. And to me, it's like you could do something on the other end of these shows to have some intensity and have people seated when these matches are on. And you can't do it for every match. I get that. That's where there's going to be down matches. You know, there's going to be matches that are in the death spot. You know, that is going to happen. But that's usually where Vince would have put the everybody on the show match, the Fatal 4-Way, or, you know, the women's tag team championships, where there's no storyline going into it really. And but Triple H is like, everything is going to have a storyline. It's like, yeah, but nothing's going to have a hook. You know, nothing's going to have a. This is a must see. You know, this is a main event level match here, a main match. We're not there yet. So they have to actually put some hooks into people at this point, because right now the WrestleMania build is mid outside of the Bloodline. All right, like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.